What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV. Welcome back to the last episode of the Premier League Perspective until we break for the World Cup. Obviously, this is the roundup of Predict the Prem, where me and my brother go head-to-head in predicting Premier League outcomes, and we have scores as well, which is 117 to me, 101 to Sim going into the final week before the World Cup. And the way the scoring works is 5 points for a completely correct scoreline, 1 point for a correct result, and the star man as well. Once you pick that man, you cannot pick them again for the entirety of the season, and it's 5 points for a goal and 3 points for an assist. And let's get straight into it with the first game of the weekend, which was Man City against Brentford, and Brentford won it 2-1 at the Etihad. Both of us going for 3-0 to Manchester City, and what a turn for the form books here at the Etihad. Brentford with their first win away from home all season, coming at the Etihad against champions Manchester City, and they were good value for the win, weren't they?
Yeah, fully deserved. Ivan Toney giving Man City no end of problems throughout the game. He could have had a hat-trick pretty much throughout the 90 minutes. You know, they went 1-0 up, which was good reward for their bright start to the game, and they deserved to go 1-0 up for sure. They already missed a massive chance through Ivan Toney before scoring the opening goal. Man City then piled on the pressure. They did get the equaliser. They did tell just before the half-time break. But in the second half, Brentford were resolute. They didn't really give Man City too many clear-cut chances. I think Gundogan had one which he placed over the bar. Apart from that, that was pretty much the extent to their real clear-cut opportunities. Fair play to Brentford for defending as they did, and they were always a threat on the counter throughout the whole game. And it told in the 98th minute where they got that winner, and they could have made it 3-1 as well just after that.
Yeah,
but,
that was like a 3-on-1 situation.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Over there.
I don't know how they didn't score that, but brilliant, absolutely brilliant from Brentford. And in terms of Man City and their title hopes, obviously they lose more ground on Arsenal now, who are in top, which isn't great. But we do move 3 points closer to them, so that's also positive, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's move on to Bournemouth against Everton, which finished 3-0 to Bournemouth on the day. Sim went 2-1 to Everton. I went 3-1 to Bournemouth, so just missing out on 5 points because I predicted that Everton goal. But
yeah, Everton was shitter than you expected, basically.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And look, Bournemouth, very good result. They've battered Everton twice in the space of a week.
7 goals in 2 games.
Unbelievable. Frank Lampard has definitely got to take a long, hard look at the way they're performing at the moment. And credit to Bournemouth, plugging away, getting a well-deserved victory, a well-deserved battering over Everton once again. And one player I've actually been really impressed with over the last few weeks is Tavernier for Bournemouth. You know, really tricky player. Is he brother, is he? Both of them are really good players, to be honest.
They look like they're brothers. I don't know if 100%. Yeah. They look like brothers.
Maybe, I don't know. But he's really impressed me over the last couple of weeks. Really tricky player, got a lot of pace to him, and he's got some quality to him as well.
Yeah, he's been scoring a few goals recently, for sure.
And assists.
Yeah, and getting assists. So fair play. But Everton puts them in 17th. Obviously, it's very, very tight down at the bottom. There's only 6 points that separate. Sorry, it's 9 points that separate the whole bottom of the half of the table. So you could easily move up and down very quickly. But Everton now, after 15 games, sitting in 17th, are 1 point above Nottingham Forest, having lost the last 2. So for Lampard, the pressure is definitely increasing on him. You have to say that. And also the scenes at the end of the game. I don't know if you saw them between the Everton fans and
chucked Iwobi's shirt back out.
Yeah, so it's turned a bit toxic there, it seems. You know, the fans, for the most part, have been very much behind Frank Lampard, and he's been a source of excitement for them. They're always chanting his name, but maybe things are starting to turn.
You know, when you rest a lot of players to play the Carabao Cup game against Bournemouth, it's obviously with a view to going and winning that Premier League game at the weekend. And if you get battered in both of them with 2 much changed sides, you know, it's not a good situation. Yeah, exactly. It's not a good situation to be in. And I think that a few weeks ago, it looked as though Everton were actually turning a corner. They looked strong at the back and they were nicking the odd goal here and there. Now the defensive shape looks all gone at the moment, and you know, they're slipping.
However good Bournemouth are, and they've proved a lot of people wrong over the past few years, despite they've lost four in a row prior to this win. I know they've been decent, but a team like Everton, it doesn't matter if they have injuries or not. You know, they still have decent players. Like, you know, they had Maupay up front. You know, he would probably get into the Bournemouth team. They had people like Gordon and Gray in their team. They got decent midfielders, so they should not be getting absolutely battered 3-0 and 4-1 by Bournemouth. No. That has to be unacceptable.
Yeah, and it'll be a worrying state for them if they are in like a relegation battle like they were in last season without the likes of Richarlison to pull them through as well.
Well, it looks like they could well be as things stand, but still a long way to go.
Yeah.
But look,
do you think they'll be safe? Do you think they'll stay up?
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's difficult to say. I mean, if you say Forest are probably going to go down, I mean, are they better than...
You'd think that, like, under
Forest are turning
Lopetegui,
it.
like, Wolves should turn it around under
Southampton
Lopetegui.
going to turn it around under their new manager as well, Nathan Jones. I mean...
Southampton, though, they do have a championship team.
I think if they keep Lampard, I think there's a good chance they can go down, honestly. Honestly, I do.
All right, let's move on to the next game. On Merseyside, Liverpool 3, Southampton 1, and Sim got it absolutely spot on with 5 points there, 3-1 to Liverpool. I said 2-0, so Sim gets a big 5-pointer there. I just get 1 point there, but... Liverpool won the game 3-1, but Southampton did have their chances, didn't they?
In the second half, it looks like, they obviously equalised very quickly after Liverpool took the lead through Roberto Firmino, and then Liverpool got 2 goals late in the second half through Darwin Núñez, 2 nice finishes. Fair play to him. And to be fair, I kept saying he keeps getting these positions because he was getting a lot of chances, he's missing a lot of chances, but he doesn't get the amount of goals without that he did in Portugal without some sort of finishing ability. So if he keeps getting those chances, the goals will come. And so to be fair to him, how many goals is that now for Darwin Núñez this season?
I think it's like 7 or something.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing all right. Like he gets clowned on a bit, but I think he's actually been pretty good for Liverpool since coming in, and I think it's clouded by, first of all, how well Haaland's doing, and also how badly Liverpool themselves to start the season. But I think him individually,
it's his 5th Premier League goal. But I think he's done okay. When you're talking about a young player coming to the Premier League with 7 goal contributions, 5 goals, 2 assists in 10 games, and a few of those games were sub appearances as well. So you've got to give him credit. 9
goals in all competitions. That's pretty good for a new signing.
Really good.
For a youngster. So credit to Darwin Núñez. Obviously, but then Southampton did have a few chances in the second half, which Alisson had to be at his best to keep them at bay, keep it at 3-1, and made sure they got all 3 points and made sure there wasn't a nervy ending to the game. But fair play to Liverpool reacting. Well, 2 wins in a row now after beating us, isn't it? So fair play.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to Nottingham Forest against Crystal Palace. Finished 1-0 to Nottingham Forest at the City Ground. Both of us going for Palace wins. I went for 1-0, you went for 2-1. I didn't see much of this game, but you've got to give credit for Forest for coming through a really tough game like this.
Yeah, and it seemed as though there was a bit of luck with the Zaha missed penalty, which he would have probably scored.
What is it about penalties against Nottingham Forest?
Yeah, people seem to be struggling to score them, but this one wasn't a save. He put it wide. He actually sent Henderson the wrong way, and he just put it wide of the post. So he'll be frustrated with that, and it'll be frustrating for Palace because Zaha would have scored probably if he wasn't fouled in that moment, and then he was brought down, and they end up not scoring at all. But Forest definitely found some a bit more resolute in the past few weeks, despite the battering from Arsenal. Past 5 games, there's been a 0-0 with Brighton, 1-0 at home to Liverpool. There's been 2-2 with Brentford, and obviously the 1-0 win. So definitely tightening things up and becoming a bit more difficult to play against. And Morgan Gibbs-White with the winner at the end of the day. Nice finish. But Lingard, I was watching the highlights. He had a series of chances where he just completely fluffed them, like 2 one-on-ones. So I don't know if, at the moment, he's still got a lot to be desired at the moment, this free transfer.
Obviously, he scores against us, though.
Yeah, of course he does. But at least Morgan Gibbs-White is starting definitely to contribute for the team.
Yeah, absolutely. So 0 points for us in that one. Let's move on to Tottenham against Leeds. Obviously finished 4-3 to Tottenham on the day. Sim went 3-2, so actually not so far off. Just the goal each you needed to give for a 5 point.
If Rodrigo didn't get that goal at that point, maybe it would have happened.
Yeah, maybe. But, credit to getting the point there. I went for 1-1, and to be fair, I wasn't too far off a point either in this one. But I think you got to give credit for Spurs to keep coming back behind 3 times in the game. Obviously, not good enough defensively time and time again for Tottenham Hotspur. But I think the way we show that never die attitude, you got to give the team credit for that.
Yeah, and it's so how often now we're seeing Spurs get late goals or come up with things when we need to, and at least force the issue, even in games where we have given ourselves too much to do. More, a lot of the time we're still giving it a really good go, and we're still, the better team going to that stage of the game, and more often than not, quite unlucky not to get something. But you can't keep going into games giving yourself that much to do. 3 goals conceded against Leeds is not good enough for this team, and we can't keep having to make these comebacks because it's going to come back to bite you, and it has already a number of times this season. So that's something we've got to work on. But at least if we can match this attitude and mentality with better quality at the back, we could be a very serious team. But at the moment, we need to fix these issues.
Yeah, absolutely. But we end the break with a win, still in the top 4, still in the Champions League. So it's not all doom and gloom, but we need major investment in our defence if we're ever going to do anything. So that's that. A point to Sim, 0 for me. But let's move on to West Ham against Leicester. Finished 2-0 to Leicester at the London Stadium. Sim went 1-0 to West Ham. I went 1-1. But you got to give credit to Leicester. I mean, they found some form from somewhere after a shocking start to the season, shocking defensive actions as well, conceding a minimum of 2 goals a game. They're keeping clean sheets for fun at the moment. But on the other hand, West Ham, 1 win now since since mid-October, and that win coming against Bournemouth. They've drawn to the likes of Southampton, lost to Liverpool, lost to Man United, lost to Crystal Palace at home, lost to Blackburn in the Cup, and now losing to Leicester at home. And Moyes is coming under pressure here.
Very much so, and I think the football they're playing at the moment, it's difficult to watch. They're struggling to get results, and I think it's hard for West Ham fans to take because, you know, in the summer you improve the quality of the squad. You finally get a partner for Antonio to put him under pressure. So you finally have another striker that you can call upon. You have add a bit of quality like Paqueta in midfield. So naturally the fans are going to be like, okay, it's time for the West Ham to push on. But it happens sometimes where, especially for managers like Moyes, like they're so good at getting the team to be better than the sum of its parts and getting quality. But when he does have increased quality, it's like he doesn't know what to do with it, and that's got to be a worry for West Ham at the moment. Obviously, European football doesn't help, but they had European football last season, got to the semi-final, and were able to go well in the league. So I don't know if that excuse rings thin when you see what they did last season. So you got to question Moyes, and I think that West Ham team, they do have a lot of quality there, so the pressure is going to be piling on him. And I guess, I don't know, we spoke to our uncle who's a West Ham fan. He says he reckons Moyes' time is coming to an end. But it is harsh because he's done such a great job there. But, you know, maybe it happens to in the modern day football. This is how it goes. You know, yeah. Do they give him time and give him more backing, or is it time to cut your losses? It's going to be interesting to see what they do with West Ham. They're on the same points as Everton at the moment.
I know, it's actually a disgrace how West Ham have started the season. But, you know, maybe Leicester can be a good example because Brendan Rodgers looked on his last legs, didn't he? Only a month ago. And he seems to have turned things around. Leicester playing really good stuff at the moment. Harvey Barnes has really introduced himself into the season, and they've suddenly become really strong at the back. I don't know where that's come from. I think the new defender has really helped them out. Faiz, whatever his name is.
Fowles.
Yeah, you know, I'm talking about the David Luiz lookalike. He's really sorted things out for them at the back, and I think he's a really good signing for them. More Leicester, transfer department pulling through for them once again. So I think that if West Ham do stick with Moyes, I think they might reap the benefits of it, as opposed to maybe bringing in someone else for a bit more short-term success. Yeah,
you're probably right. It's going to be interesting to see because Rice was saying last week how, you know, last week was a game they really had to win if they wanted to, you know, keep going for European places. So now he's put even more pressure on that Leicester game to get the win, and they went and lost against Leicester. So he must be very frustrated with how things are going this season with West Ham. And the longer this kind of form happens, he's obviously going to be questioning his future. And there's a lot of uncertainty from that in that aspect when it comes to West Ham and having their talisman, his future being up in the air when he can't be, you know, a team player like Rice has to be playing Champions League football. That's the be all and end all. Yeah. But yeah, Leicester definitely improving a lot. James Maddison obviously got a goal before going off injured, which obviously he got in the England squad. Hopefully he'll be all right there, but another goal for him. Nice finish as well.
Brendan said he's going to be completely fine, and they took him off more as a precaution to protect him for the World Cup.
Fair play.
And you know, what sort of that's a message being sent out by Brendan Rodgers to Spurs fans, as opposed to Spurs fans getting all angry that Christian Romero hasn't been in the team the last couple of games, and he's been pictured in Argentina training the day later. I mean, is it up to clubs to protect their players for the World Cup?
To an extent, yes. I think there should be some sort of player welfare. You shouldn't be playing a player if there's a risk of injury. 100%. Look, you got to understand these players. For a lot of them, as much as we're fans, and a lot of the fans are club over country, and we prefer to see our club do well than to see England do well in the Euros or World Cup. These players, this is what they've been building to their whole careers. There's nothing that gives a player more pride than representing their country at a World Cup, and it's not their fault that the World Cup has fallen mid-season, and they're put in this situation where, if they are at slight risk of injury and stuff like that, then if they do play, they're risking of missing the World Cup and missing an opportunity of a lifetime, pretty much. With a player, you never know when it's going to come around again. You
Absolutely.
never know when if you're called up for a World Cup, that's a special moment. So you can't take that for granted. So I understand,
especially for these kind of players, Romero and Maddison, where it's their first World Cup as well.
Yeah, so I have sympathy for that. Obviously, I wouldn't want a player to rule himself out of playing for his club just because he wants to be fit for his country. But if there is a risk of injury and they're not fully fit, I think I completely understand it. So I have a different perspective than a lot of fans, but I think fans will get upset if they feel like a player is ducking the club to be fit for the World Cup.
I completely agree with you, to be honest, and I think like the outrage going on against Christian Romero at the moment is a bit too much. And a bit over the top. And I think most players would probably do the same in that position. Like, he played through injury, for God's sake. You know what I mean? Conte said, like, if he had one leg, he would still play. And he wanted to play, and he made himself available to play. And I have no two ways about it that the medical team at Tottenham probably suggested to him not to play anyway.
Exactly. That's what I would think.
But let's move on. Newcastle against Chelsea. Newcastle 1, Chelsea 0 at St James's Park. Sim went 2-1 to Newcastle. I went 1-0 to Newcastle, so Sim gets a point there, and I get all 5 points. And it was a game where I think Newcastle pretty much had control for the majority of the game. And Chelsea, what is going on with them at the moment? Because they are not playing good football. They don't look convincing whatsoever at the moment.
Yeah, no win in 5, 3 losses on the bounce. There's even calls for, is Graham Potter in trouble? But I was talking to a Chelsea fan last night, and he was saying, like, Potter, he doesn't really think he's not sure about Potter, and he's not sure whether he's the right fit for Chelsea. But I'm just thinking, when you hire a manager like Potter, you have to give him time. You don't hire a manager like Graham Potter if you're not in it for the long term. That's exactly what he's all about. And Chelsea, and obviously coming in mid-season, he's got aging players in his squad. He needs to get his kind of players. He needs some windows to get the right fits for him. And it was obviously going to be a bumpy ride. I said it. I would say there's more chance of them getting top 4 if they stick with Tuchel instead of going for Potter. Now they went with Potter. It was obviously going to be a transition and a bumpy ride going into this season, and it's turning out to be that, because it's always going to be difficult when the manager doesn't have his own players. So they had a great start, but at the moment they're really, really struggling to get results. They start with a front 3 of Mount, Gallagher, and Broja. I mean, that front 3 you don't associate that front 3 with a top 4 team.
No.
I know they've got Sterling out and Aubameyang and all these kind of things, but at the moment that's the front 3 they were playing with. So when you think about it, it's no real surprise they couldn't get a goal against one of the meanest defence in the Premier League, to be fair. And Newcastle, it looked like it was a matter of time before they scored, to be fair, before they did get on the score sheet. They were very unlucky not to get on. They were pretty much on top the whole game. The only real danger they had is late in the game. Chelsea were pushing and they looked like they might get something, but it didn't happen. And a deserved win. And look at this Newcastle team. They had no Saint-Maximin. They had no Callum Wilson in the starting 11. They had players.
Front 3 of Almiron, Wood, and Joe Linton.
Yeah, and they're still on top, and they're still performing like that. I mean, that
not only
shows
that, but
the
Willock
coaching.
and Longstaff in midfield as well.
That shows the coaching. That shows what a great job Eddie Howe is doing when he can have players out injured. I mean, look. I mean, we use the excuse for Tottenham so often. This player's out, and that's why we're not playing this way, and that's why we can't get the performance. Yeah, Eddie Howe has all these players out, and there's no excuses, and he still put it on top.
Do you think when we sacked Pochettino, we missed a trick not getting in Eddie Howe?
Do I think when we sacked Pochettino, we missed a trick not getting Eddie Howe? I mean, it's looking that way at the moment. I think Eddie Howe's a brilliant manager. The job he did at Bournemouth was exceptional. Didn't get enough credit for it just because he got relegated in his last season. And so I think Newcastle have done really well to appoint a young manager for their project. Do I think... I mean, it's tough to say. I mean, if we would have got backing in time, then I think it would have been a good appointment. Yeah, for sure.
All right, well, that leaves it at 124 to 109 as we stand. Let's move on to Wolves against Arsenal, which finished 2-0 at Molineux. Sim went 3-0, so he gets a point there. And another 5-pointer to myself, 2-0 I predicted at Molineux. And you know what? This game wasn't going all Arsenal's way. It really wasn't. I was watching it and I was actually quite hopeful that Wolves could nick one, but the lack of quality going forward for Wolves was evident. Was clearly evident. And if they had a little bit more quality going forward, I think Wolves actually could have done something from here. But I think as soon as Arsenal scored that first goal, it was just one-way traffic from there.
Yeah, I think actually for the first hour, Wolves were causing problems and the game plan was working for the first hour for Wolves. I would say they should have had a penalty. For sure. I think Arsenal completely got away with one in the first half. Saliba gets nowhere near the ball, really. Guedes is about to shoot.
They've been getting these decisions all season.
That was a very lucky decision. They should have had a penalty. I think there was an incorrect offside flag which went up, which probably saved them.
Yeah.
But I don't understand why VAR can't check it. But anyway, so to be fair, Arsenal, I mean, they had Wolves contained, but the Wolves' plan to get in those positions in behind, they were doing a decent job for maybe the players they had on the pitch, but they never really.
Was very frustrating.
Yeah, they never really looked like they were going to score, despite the fact that they were hurting out. They were looking dangerous, but Adama Traore never really threatened to score. Guedes got in positions, but didn't. You never were confident he was going to get the ball in the back of the net. And then once Arsenal got their goal, that was perfect situation. Then they can sit back a bit and invite Wolves onto them and hit them on the counter. Exactly what they did, and then they ran out probably deserved winners in the end.
Yeah.
But for the first hour, it probably wasn't the trickiest. But you know what? We come to these no away game in the Premier League these days is easy, and they're batting them away at the moment. So it's worrying times, I have to say.
A few injuries. Don't worry, everyone. Don't worry. Arsenal are not winning the league this season. They're not. But let's move on to Brighton against Aston Villa, which finished 2-1 to Aston Villa, which carries on the perfect start for Unai Emery at Aston Villa. Both of us going for 2-2 here, and it probably should have been 2-2. I think Brighton probably should have nicked another goal from here from somewhere, but you got to give credit to Unai Emery and Villa. He's changed things around in a short space of time.
Yeah, they were 1-0 down within a minute, weren't they?
Yeah.
Martinez giving the ball straight to McAllister, who slotted it home, and you're thinking, this could be a good day for Brighton. To be fair, I thought Brighton were on top for large bit. I think they got the penalty against run of play, Aston Villa. McGinn was fouled in the box. It was a stupid chance from Dunk. And then I thought they got the second goal against run of play as well, and it was a bit of a lucky goal. Danny Ings in the box, twisting, getting a little toe poke and deflected into the corner. And it was a bit of stroke luck. They got the lead. And to be fair, you've got to say for the last half an hour they did defend well. Brighton huffed and puffed without really threatening Aston Villa in that second half. They didn't really look like they were going to score, but I would say Aston Villa definitely were a bit lucky to have taken the lead when they did. Brighton feel a bit aggrieved that they conceded when they were on top, but they also have to admit that they didn't really have the quality to didn't seem to have the quality to break down that Villa side, and Villa held on for quite a good victory. So 2 wins out of 2 for Unai Emery, and first away win of the season.
Yeah,
pretty good.
Yeah, so 2 teams with first away wins of the season going into the last game. But I think Unai Emery was talking after the game, and he said it was vitally important for them to get that away win before the break, to go into the break with some good momentum, which I completely agree with. And I think Villa will be all right this season with Unai Emery. He's a good manager. But let's go to Craven Cottage. 2-1 Fulham lost against Manchester United. Sim went 1-0 to Man U, so he gets a point there, and I get yet another 5 points here. I predicted 2-1 to Manchester United on the day, and they left it late with Garnacho right at the last kick of the game. And I tell you what, a Man United fan said to me about a year ago, watch out for this Garnacho guy, and I was like, yeah, all right, whatever. And he looks like an unbelievable talent.
He does. That's 2 goals and assists in his last 3 games. 18 years of age. This guy looks like he's going to be a serious.
He's no Adnan Januzaj, I'll tell you that.
Well, we'll see. But yeah, I thought it was a brilliant burst of pace and finish into the corner, a bit of composure as well. He's really coming up trumps recently for Man United. In terms of the game overall, I thought Man United probably deserved to be in the lead going into half-time. Nice goal by Christian Eriksen. I thought it was a weird one where Fulham had a lot of the possession, where Man United were carving them open on the counter attack, and actually were looking a lot more dangerous. You would have thought would be the opposite, but it was definitely Fulham dominating the ball. Second half, I think Fulham deservedly equalised. Dan James getting on the end
to
of
be him after a minute after he came on as well.
Yeah, I thought, and they deserved it. They were on top. They were the ones making running. I thought De Gea was making some serious saves going into it, and it was definitely reward for their good work. And I just think they missed Mitrovic during the game, because I thought Carlos Vinicius was rubbish. I thought he really didn't have a good game. He wasn't threatening Man United at all. All their threat was coming from either Pereira deliveries, Willian on the left, or just crosses into the box, like going towards people like low crosses like Dan James and stuff. So maybe if Mitrovic was playing, the result could have been different. But they kind of pushed. They couldn't really hold out for the draw. Man United showed their quality in the end, but I would say they got a bit lucky to get the victory in the end.
In terms of Fulham, Willian, he's come back to the Premier League. He seems to be in much better shape at Fulham than he was at Arsenal. Arsenal, you saw that little podge of a belly coming through. But, he's actually standing up and playing really well for Fulham at the moment. I've been really surprised and impressed.
He's been okay. He got one goal, hasn't he? He's never really been a goal scorer, though, hasn't he? Even at his best of times in his time in England. I think he's done decent.
He's done better than I expected anyway.
Yeah, fair enough. Maybe if you take into account his time at Arsenal, you probably expect him to be absolute rubbish. And he's proven not to be that. I don't think he's been anything special, though.
All right, let's move on to the star men, and time for Sim to claw back some points with Darwin Núñez. 10 points, 2 goals for Darwin Núñez, and I got nothing for Dominic Solanke.
Didn't get an assist?
No, he didn't, unfortunately. No. He took a shot at goal, and then it rebounded off, the keeper saved it, and then it fell to another player, so nowhere near an assist, to be honest.
There you go.
So Darwin Núñez, 10 points, Dominic Solanke, 0 points. So we end off this period going into the World Cup, and I say a nice healthy lead for myself, 134 to 121.
All right, 13 points, it's doable.
It is very doable. A lot of games left to play, not even at the halfway stage.
I tell you what, this week to'd and fro'd, because I overtook you at one point, and then you had 3 3-pointers in a row. I'm like, oh, for God's sake. Couldn't believe it, because I thought, all right, I'm back in the game, and then pulled away. But look, I cut the gap from 16 to 13, so it's not too bad.
Yeah. All right. So there you have it. That is your last Premier League's perspective until we come back. Next Spurs game is on Boxing Day, so a long time to wait for that. Keep an eye out for all the World Cup content coming your way as well. But thank you everyone for joining us today. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.